48 degrees 52 minutes south, 123 degrees 23 minutes west. The most remote place on Earth. The closest land is 2,688 kilometers away in any direction. If you were standing there right now, your nearest neighbor would not be on this planet. Your nearest neighbor would be 400 kilometers above your head, moving at 28,000 kilometers per hour on the International Space Station. The most expensive structure ever built by human beings. And in 2030, NASA has officially decided that the International Space Station will fall from the sky and land right there. That place has a name, Point Nemo. Named after Captain Nemo, Jules Verne's captain of the Nautilus, the man who chose to live as far from humanity as possible. It is already a graveyard. More than 300 spacecraft have already been buried there. Their wreckage lies on the ocean floor, in total darkness, in total silence. And the most expensive object humanity has ever built is next. In the next 11 minutes, I am going to show you three things. First, what Point Nemo actually is. The geography of the most isolated place imaginable, and why space agencies around the world chose it as their official disposal site. Second, what's already down there. More than 300 objects, including things that will surprise you, including one thing that cost $250 million. And third, the decision that NASA made in 2024, the plan to end the International Space Station, the station that took 13 years to build, that cost $150 billion, that has been continuously inhabited for 24 years, will be deliberately pushed out of orbit, broken apart by the atmosphere, and dropped into the ocean. At Point Nemo in 2030. The graveyard. Picture the Pacific Ocean, the largest body of water on Earth. 165 million square kilometers, covering more than a third of the planet's surface. Now find the point in that ocean that is furthest from any coastline, in any direction. That point is called the oceanic pole of inaccessibility, Point Nemo, 2,688 kilometers from the nearest land. Ducie Island, a tiny uninhabited atoll, to the north. Motu Nui, a small island off Easter Island, to the northeast. Meher Island, Antarctica, to the south. No country claims the water above it. No shipping route passes through it. No fishing fleet ventures near it. The ocean surface here is biologically one of the least productive on Earth. So little sunlight reaches the floor that almost nothing lives there. It is, in every meaningful sense, the most alone place on the planet, which is exactly why it was chosen. When a spacecraft re-enters the atmosphere, it doesn't completely burn up. Some parts survive. Dense objects, metal tanks, engine components, they fall at high speed into whatever is below. If you're going to drop debris from orbit, you want it to land somewhere where it will never hit anything, never hit anyone. Point Nemo is that place. Space agencies have been using it since the 1970s, officially, deliberately, systematically. More than 300 spacecraft have been sent here. They are on the ocean floor, somewhere below 4,000 meters of water, in total darkness, in total silence. What's already down there?
each item in the inventory bigger than the last. Let's talk about what's down there. Fragments of Soviet and American rockets from the 1970s and 80s, hundreds of them, spread across the ocean floor. Cargo spacecraft that resupplied the International Space Station, ATV, HTV, Progress, all sent here after their missions. Satellites that reached end of life, deorbited deliberately to avoid becoming space debris. One of them deserves to be named: the Compton Gamma Ray Observatory, a 17-ton NASA space telescope, launched 1991. Retired 2000, one gyroscope failed, the mission ended. Rather than risk an uncontrolled re-entry, NASA fired its own thrusters and guided it to Point Nemo. It entered the atmosphere at 28,000 kilometers per hour, most of it burned. But 6 tons of debris survived the re-entry and landed here. But Mir is the one that matters. Slow right down, Mir deserves full weight. Mir was the Soviet Union space station, launched 1986, the first continuously inhabited space station in history. It hosted 125 cosmonauts and astronauts from 12 different countries. It survived the collapse of the Soviet Union. It survived budget crises, fires, and a collision with a cargo ship. For 15 years, it was humanity's outpost in space. On March 23, 2001, Russia fired its engines one last time. Mir began to fall. It entered the atmosphere over the South Pacific. It broke apart. Pieces burned, the rest fell into Point Nemo. Witnesses on the Fiji Islands saw streaks of fire across the sky. That was Mir. What is left of it is down there, right now, in the dark. The ISS falls in 2030. The scale of what is being decided must land. The International Space Station assembly began in 1998. First crew arrived November 2, 2000. It has been continuously inhabited for 24 years. It is the size of a football field, 420,000 kilograms, 73 meters wide. It orbits Earth every 90 minutes. Total construction cost, $150 billion, the most expensive structure ever built. In 2024, NASA formalized the end. A 282-page deorbit plan. The ISS will be slowly lowered in orbit from 2026. In January 2030, a final deorbit burn. The station will re-enter the atmosphere. Most of it will burn, but not all of it. Approximately 100 tons of debris will survive the re-entry. They will fall across a 2,500-kilometer corridor that ends at Point Nemo. The cost of this controlled deorbit, approximately $1 billion. Why not keep it up? The Kessler syndrome must land as a concept. The alternative to deorbiting the ISS is to leave it in orbit. Abandoned, unpowered, slowly degrading. Eventually, its orbit would decay, and it would come down, uncontrolled, unpredictably, over a city, over a country, over wherever Earth happens to be rotating at that moment. And there is a deeper problem. The ISS orbits in a zone already crowded with debris. If it broke apart uncontrolled, the fragments could collide with other satellites, creating more fragments, which collide with more satellites, creating more fragments. In 1978, scientist Donald Kessler described this scenario: a cascade, where the debris from one collision causes the next collision, which causes the next, until low Earth orbit becomes permanently unusable. No satellites, no space stations, no GPS, no weather forecasts, no communications. We would be trapped below our own ring of destruction. So the ISS must come down, on our terms, to the only place on Earth where it can land without harming anyone.
Each sentence isolated. In the year 2000, humans arrived on the International Space Station. They never left. For 24 consecutive years, there has been a human being living above this planet. 24 years, through 9/11, through the 2008 financial crisis, through a global pandemic, through every war, every election, every catastrophe below. Someone was up there. In 2030, that ends. The greatest cooperative project in human history, built by 15 nations that could not agree on almost anything else, will be thrown into the ocean. At the most remote place on Earth, where no one will ever see it, where no one will ever visit, where it will rest on the ocean floor for thousands of years, in total darkness. Here is the question this leaves. We built the most expensive thing in human history. We agreed to share it. We lived on it together. And when it was over, we threw it away. Is that the story of the ISS? Or is that the story of everything we build? Point Nemo will be there, long after we are gone. The graveyard at the edge of the world, where we sent the things we loved and could no longer afford to keep.
The US built something underground far more disturbing. Watch this.